Geronimo Stilton, the Giant Diamond Robbery. It was a very special evening. I left work at 5 on the dot and raced home. I didn't even stop to smell the cheese at the all-you-can-eat cheese palace. It was the night of the big soccer game, and my favorite team was playing, the Cheddar Bay Kickers and the Squeakers. Cheese niblets! Where are my manners? I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I am the publisher of the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, I had just opened my front door when my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. It read Cornelius von Kickpaw. I've known Cornelius since elementary school. Back then, he loved to protect me from the school bullies, and now he helps out mice all over the island. That's because he works as a real-life secret agent. His code name is OOK. Pretty impressive, I know. Hello, Cornelius, I said, picking up the phone, but the line went dead. Strange. I have to call my friend back after the game. The soccer game was about to start. I quickly changed into my sweatsuit with the Squeakers logo on it. Then I made myself a sandwich, cut a slice of cheese pie, and whipped out mozzarella milkshake. Finally, I shut off. The doorbell rang. The phone, my cell phone, the fax machine, the computer. Now nothing would disturb me. I switched on the television. I was so excited, even though I'm not much of a sports mouse. I love the Squeakers. They always play by the rules, and they donate half of their ticket sales to the charity. Plus, tonight the Squeakers were competing for the title of the Mouse Island Champions. It was the most important game of the year. I settled into my favorite porch chair and turned up the volume. The two teams ran onto the field as music played. They lined up at the center field and shook paws to show good sportsmanship. There were just a few minutes left before the opening whistle. Come on, Squeakers, I cheered. I was so excited, I accidentally twisted my tail up in a knot. Youch! While I was untwisting, I heard a terrible noise. Kabang! I watched in horror as a giant steamroller blasted through my front door, crushing it to bits. Then it began to roll straight towards me. Help! I squeaked. What was happening? Why had some mad mouse trying to flatten me like a pancake? My fur stood to an end. Please don't hurt me, I cried. Just then, I heard a familiar snort. I stared hard at the mouse driving the steamroller. He had grey fur and a scowl on his face. I should have known. It was my crazy grandfather, William Shortpaws. One thing you should know about my grandfather, he doesn't like to be kept waiting. Once we went to a fancy restaurant and the service was terribly slow. Grandfather got so angry, he dumped a whole plate of creamy mashed potatoes over the waiter's head. Now he stared at me with steely eyes. Geronimo, I have been trying to reach you for the past 20 minutes, he shrieked, jumping off the steamroller. I tried your phone, your fax, and your cell. I even rang your doorbell and screamed in your window. How dare you not answer me? I gulped. I was trying to watch the soccer game, I stammered. Did I mention I'm a tiny bit afraid of my grandfather? Well, okay, maybe I'm more than a tiny bit afraid. I'm a total scaredy mouse. Grandfather rolled his eyes. Soccer? He scoffed. How many times do I have to tell you, grandson? Golf is where it's at. Ever since my grandfather retired and left me in charge of the Rodents Gazette, he has dedicated himself to golf. He gets cranky but doesn't play every day, and he insists on winning every match. Oh, before I forget, your friend Cornelius von Kickpaw called me. He's trying to reach you, grandfather added. Then he grabbed my remote and dashed towards my television. Cornelius again? I had to get back to him. But first, I had to stop my grandfather. I had plopped himself down in my porch chair and was scarfing down my cheese pie. He hadn't eaten in days. I tried my best to remain calm until the unthinkable happened. Grandfather changed the channel. No, I shrieked. I'm watching the soccer game. My grandfather didn't blink. A picture of a golf course appeared on my screen. Listen, Geronimo, my TV is on the fritz, so I'm using yours, he announced. It's the Fermax Masters Tournament, and there's no way I'm missing it. Case closed. End of story. I chewed my whiskers to keep myself from screaming. How could this be happening? I just had to see the game. I grabbed the phone and began dialing my friends. Nobody answered. They were all watching the game. I tried to squeak into the diner around the corner. They were closed. I thought about going to the office, but then I remembered Grandfather had sold the office television. He had said the cable bill was too expensive. I gnashed my teeth. I was going to miss the biggest game of the year, all because my grandfather was a cheapskate. Then I had an idea. I could buy another television. I had always wanted one in my bedroom. I could fall asleep to my favorite reality show, Cheese Boss, with renewed hope. I called every last electronics store in town, but nobody answered. They were all watching the game. Meanwhile, Grandfather was happily munching away, glued to his golf tournament. "Use the 9 iron, you fur-brain," he shouted, shaking his paw at the TV. I took off my glasses so I could cry freely. I felt like the only rodent alive, stuck watching a boring golf game instead of the most important soccer match in Mouse Island history. It was unthinkable. It was unimaginable. It was unsqueakable. To make things worse, the golf game didn't end until midnight. By the time Grandfather left my house, I was exhausted. I stared at the hole where my front door had once stood. Then I crawled into bed. I fell asleep and dreamed I was being attacked by a crazed woodpecker. I woke up to a messenger pigeon tapping at my window. He held a note from OK. It read, "I need to speak to you." "What kind of a nut wants to talk to you at 2 in the morning?" I grumbled. Then I went back to sleep. The next day, I got to my office super early. I was still feeling down about missing the game, so I decided to drown my sorrows by working. It wasn't easy. Everyone was talking about the championship. "Can you believe the Squeakers won?" my assistant Pinky Pick asked. "What a game!" I heard in the kitchen to cheer myself up. I threw a breakfast party for the staff. Oh, how I love a good pastry in the morning. I had a sip from my cup of hot cheddar, bit into a Danish, and smiled. It was filled with rich, creamy cheese and a rolled-up piece of paper. Acrylic cat claws! What was a piece of paper doing in my Danish? It was another message from OK. "Are you going to call me or what?" I reached for the phone, but just then my grandfather charged into my office like a tornado. "What's all this partying, grandson? Everyone, get back to work. Move it," he bellowed. After the staff had left my office, Grandfather clapped his paws. "Enough wasting time," he cried. "I've got news in a few days. The most important golf tournament on Mouse Island is taking place in Mouseport. The winners get to take home the Super Mouse Cup. It's made of solid gold with a giant diamond on top. I want you with me, grandson. You'll be my caddy." I groaned. "Isn't the caddy the one who carries the heavy golf clubs?" My paws were sore just thinking about it. But of course I agreed. I couldn't say no to my grandfather. He'd throw a fit. "Plus, I'll need you to keep your eyes peeled. Rumor has it one of the golfers is planning on cheating," Grandfather continued. He headed for the door, then turned back. "Why don't you just stand there?" he shouted. "Our plane leaves in exactly 1 hour." I flew into a panic. 1 hour, I guess. I could probably forget about finishing my cheese Danish. Oh, how I hate rushes. I ran home and creamed my clothes into my suitcase. I was so rushed I forgot to call back OK. Just then the phone rang. It was Grandfather. "Make sure you pack light," he squeaked. "And I mean light, grandson. No more than 2 pounds. Now move it, move it, move it." I repacked my stuff in a smaller bag. Make sure I put in only the essentials, then raced to the airport. Grandfather was nowhere to be found. Suddenly I heard someone calling me. I looked around, but all I saw was a huge mountain of luggage in the corner. Then a face popped out from behind. "Over here, grandson," my grandfather called. It was livid. I was livid. So that's why my grandfather wanted me to pack light. He wanted me to carry all his stuff. I dragged everything to the check-in counter, where the ticket agent made us pay an expensive fee because the luggage weighed so much. We packed, screamed. My back screamed in pain. Just then, we heard an announcement over the loudspeaker. Mr. Bonkick was waiting for Mr. Stilton at the boarding gate C-112. Cheese niblets! It was OK. I rushed to the boarding gate. Cornelius was hiding behind a newspaper. "I need to tell you something important," he whispered. But before he could continue, Grandfather dragged me away. "No time for chit-chatting, grandson. My fans are waiting. William Shortpaws, the golf legend, cannot miss the plane," he squeaked. Grandfather pushed his way to the front of the boarding line. 2 minutes later, We were in our seats. Grandfather took the window seat, which was fine with me. Did I mention I'm afraid of heights? After I checked my seatbelts 3 times, we took off. I should have known it wouldn't be an easy flight. Grandfather drove me crazy. First, he insisted I ask the flight attendant for a glass of water with ice cubes shaped like golf balls. Then he wanted boiling hot coffee in a lucky mug. Then he wanted the sports page of the newspaper. Finally, he ordered me to read a book called The History of Golf for Dummies. I'll quiz you after the flight, he smirked. I felt a massive headache coming on. What a trip. When we finally reached Mouseport, I was so tired that I collapsed on the hotel bed and instantly fell asleep. I dreamed I was basking in the sun at a luxurious tropical resort. It was so relaxing, so quiet and so cold. I woke up to a blast of cold air in my snout. It was morning, and my grandfather had flung open the window, and he was standing with his paws on his hip. "Wake up!" he shrieked. Oh, why does grandfather have to be such a morning mouse? I hate mornings. Grandfather insisted I ordered a ton of food from room service. When the food didn't arrive within minutes, he made me call again. "Tell them it's not just for any mouse. It's for William Shortpaws, the golf legend," he yelled. When breakfast arrived, grandfather made me call and complain. The coffee was not hot enough, the juice was too tart, and the morning newspaper was crumbled. Plus, he was convinced the knife and fork were from 2 different sets of silverware. Unacceptable. Grandfather bellowed. I was so busy complaining, I almost didn't notice the note taped to the newspaper I read. "Call me already." "Oh, okay." I was about to call my friend, but grandfather yanked the phone away. "No time," he squeaked. "William Shortpaws, the golf legend, cannot be late to the golf course." We scampered downstairs and past the front desk. That's when I heard everyone whispering, "That's him. That's Geronimo Stilton, the mouse who likes to complain about everything." Those poor rodents on the golf course. I bet grandfather would make me complain that the grass wasn't green enough, the holes weren't deep enough, and the wind wasn't fresh enough. I was so embarrassed I wanted to crawl into my mouse hole and never come out. But I couldn't, not with grandfather by my side. "Get me a taxi, grandson, and make sure you tell the driver to step on it," he demanded. "Now move it, move it, move it." I hailed a cab and we took off. Grandfather complained the whole time. The seatbelt was too tight, the window was dirty, and the ride was too bumpy. When we reached the golf course, grandfather bounded out the cab, and yelled at me to grab his bags. "That was the worst ride yet," he squeaked at the driver. "No tip for you." The driver fumed. Then he zoomed off yelling, "I hope you play your worst game ever." We passed through the clubhouse where the players get changed. Then grandfather led me to a back room. The first thing I noticed was all of the security equipment. There were video cameras, infrared rays, and motion sensors. The place was a rat burglar's nightmare. I was about to ask grandfather what the security was, but when I spotted the reason. In the middle of the room stood a solid gold trophy that was bigger than the mega huge block of cheddar they sell at Squeaky Cheese Wholesalers Club. At the top of the trophy was an unbelievable giant diamond. The engraving on the trophy read, "Super Mouse Cup of Mouse Spot Golf Tournament." I was in awe. Super wasn't the word for it. This thing was spectacular. "The winners of the Mouseport Golf Tournament get to keep the cup for 1 year, then they pass it on to the next winner," grandfather explained. The trophy looks like it weighed a ton. Not even my friend, Bruce Hyena, could have lifted it. And he's one strong mouse. I wondered how many winners got it home. Shipping it would cost a fortune. And what if it was stolen on the way? I was still thinking about the Super Mouse Cup when 2 of grandfather's friends showed up. They were Arnold Porner and Clyde Clubber. Arnold and Clyde were playing as a team. "Who are you playing with, William?" Arnold asked grandfather. "I'm supposed to be playing with my friend Wilson Whitebelly, but I don't understand why he's not here yet," grandfather muttered. Glancing at his watch, Grandfather's cell phone rang. He flipped open his phone, listened for a minute, then turned pale as a slice of provolone. "What? You missed your flight?" he shrieked. "Now who am I supposed to play with?" I could hear Wilson apologizing, but Grandfather wasn't listening. Instead, he was staring at me with a fiery look. One thing you should know about Grandfather when he gets that look in his eyes was to watch out. "Grandson," he shrieked, "you will take Wilson's place." I started to protest. I hadn't played golf in years, but Grandfather didn't care. "As a young mouseling, you were great, grandson. You could have made a champion if you didn't waste your time reading books and watching silly soccer games." He squeaked. I tried to defend myself, but it was too late. Grandfather had made his mind. Oh, how had I gotten into such a big mess? I left Grandfather and he was headed for the clubhouse cafe when a paw stretched over from a behind column and tapped me on the shoulder. Psst! I jumped so high my head made a dent in the ceiling. Well, okay, maybe not that high, but you get the picture. Then I realized the paw was attached to my friend OK, the secret agent. "Geronimo, I have been trying to get a hold of you for 24 hours, he hissed. After explaining all about my annoying grandfather, I said, "What do you need to tell me?" My friend leaned in close. "I wanted you to tell me to come to Mouseport, but lucky for you, you're already here. I'm on a secret mission for the government of Mouse Island. We have reason to believe one of the players is planning to steal the solid gold Super Mouse Cup with the world-famous giant diamond." He squeaked. I was shocked, and that's not all of it. OK added, "The thief is planning on selling the diamond to cat pirates." I gasped. "How unsqueakable," I cried. OK nodded. "Exactly," he agreed. "That's why I need your help. You must fill in for your grandfather's missing partner. That way you can keep your eye on the players while I keep an eye on the Super Mouse Cup. If anyone tries to steal it, bam, we'll catch him immediately. My sister Veronica will go help me, but she fell on her high heels and twisted her ankles when she was working undercover. OK's sister is a secret agent too. Do you know her? She is one beautiful rodent." I tried explaining to Cornelius that I hadn't played golf in years. "I'll make a fool of myself," I whined. "All I remember about golf is that the ball is round." Headlines flashed before me. Stilton stinks up Super Mouse Cup tournament. Publisher lands highest score in golf history. Cornelius put out his paw around me. "Come on, Geronimo. I'm asking you in the name of friendship to do this favor," he pleaded. Of course I had to agree. I never refused a friend in need. Plus, there was one other reason I had to agree. My grandfather would kill me if I didn't play. Now, I had only one problem. I was still wearing my suit. "I'll leave some clothes in the changing room," Cornelia said with a smirk. I wasn't sure what the smirk meant, but there was no time to figure it out. I ran back to Grandfather and told him I would play. He grinned. Then he began barking orders. I had to register, get dressed, and take a golf lesson. "So you don't make me look bad," Grandfather explained. I hustled to the players' changing room and found the clothes OK had left for me. But they didn't seem quite right. That's when it hit me. The clothes belonged to OOK's sister. First, I put on Veronica Von Kickpaws' pullover sweater. It was so tight I could hardly breathe. Then I wriggled into her tiny pants and 2 small golf shoes. Youch! Finally, I plopped her green cap with a little pink heart on my head and picked out her small golf bag. At that moment, another player came into the changing room. He took one look at me and burst out laughing. I hadn't even hit the golf course yet, and I was already making a fool of myself. I decided to wear my own clothes. Then I rented some shoes and clubs and raced to the golf course. Grandfather raced to the golf course after me and hired me an instructor to give me a super jam-packed lesson. A well-dressed mouse met me on the green. "I'm Pendleton, putter rat," and he said, "Are you ready for your super jam-packed lesson?" But before I could even squeak, Pendleton shoved a golf club at me. "You have 10 minutes to hit 100 balls. Go, 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 go," he shrieked. When I finished hitting all the balls, my muscles were killing me. "Now, you have 10 minutes to do 100 squats. Pendleton told me. Go, 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 go. When I finished all those squats, I could barely walk. Now you have 10 minutes to read this 100-page book about golf techniques, Pendleton said as he handed me the book. Go, 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 go. When I finished reading, my eyes were so blurry I could hardly see. Pendleton slapped me on the back. Good luck, he said with a smirk. You're gonna really need it. I stumbled off. The tournament was about to begin. At the first hole, I looked around for grandfather. Suddenly, my phone turned the color mozzarella. Standing on Whiskers' length in front of me was Sally Rattlemouse. Do you know Sally? She's the obnoxious publisher of the Daily Rat, the Rodent Gazette's biggest competitor. Then I realized Sally wasn't alone. Her grandmother was standing next to her. She's the one who founded the Daily Rat 20 years ago, when my grandfather started the Rodent Gazette. Just then my grandfather appeared. He stomped over to Rat Mousens and stuck out his paw. May the best mouse win, he announced. But since I'm William Showpaws, the golf legend, he muttered under his breath, I think it will be us. Sally's grandmother had thick glasses and a wart on her nose, and a snooty expression. Well, I am Molly Rattlemouse, Lady Legend of Golf, and I know we will win, she declared, glaring at us with icy blue eyes. I gulped. Molly Rattlemouse reminded me a lot of her granddaughter. Strong, tough, and super confident. In fact, I was actually feeling a bit frightened by the old mouse. Still, I didn't want to appear rude, so I stuck out my paw. After all, I am a gentle mouse. Pleased to see you, madam, I began. It will be a pleasure playing with you. But before I could finish, she ripped her paw from mine, smacking me right in the snout with an enormous ruby ring. Listen closely, Furbrain, she commanded. My granddaughter and I will win this tournament in the name of the Daily Rat. Now hit the ball. Meanwhile, Grandfather pulled me aside. I'm counting on you, grandson, so don't mess this up. If you do, I'm taking back the Rodents Gazette, he threatened. I felt another massive headache coming on. Oh, for the love of cheese, how had I gotten myself into this mess? Before I hit my ball, I held it up for everyone to see. This way, no one would confuse my balls with others. Molly stomped up to me. She ripped the ball from my paws and examined it closely. How strange. Finally, I hit the ball. Then Grandfather hits his ball, and Sally hits hers. When it was Molly's turn, she swung hard, but instead of hitting for the green, the ball flew straight at me. It hit me in the head. Bonk! I heard Sally's grandmother squeak. Geronimo Stilton can't continue the match. Team Rodents Gazette must forfeit. Then I fainted. Grandfather sprang up. We are not forfeiting, he yelled. Bring me some water. A mouse from the club came running. Grandfather poured freezing water over me. I woke up in a flash. My fur was soaked. My head had a lump, and my knees felt weak. He's fine, Grandfather insisted. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How strange. At the second hole, my ball ended up in a giant tree. Rats! Did I mention I'm afraid of heights? Molly giggled under her whiskers. At the third hole, my ball ended up in the middle of a cactus patch. I had to play with a million thorns picking me in my fur. I felt like a walking pincushion. Youch! Do it for the Rodents Gazette, Grandfather ordered. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How strange. I wondered why. Did she hate me that much? She sure was one unusual rodent. At the fourth hole, my ball ended up in a nest full of wasps. Wasps buzzed all around me. When I hit the ball, they attacked. Oh, how I got myself into such a mess. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How strange. At the fifth hole, the ball ended up in something called a bunker. It's a ditch filled with sand. Every time the ball hit, I dug deeper into the hole. Soon I was covered up to my neck. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How very, very strange. At the sixth hole, my ball rolled up at the golf course in a cow patty. When I swung, splash! Gobs of cow patty hit me. I smelled like a sewer rat. Everyone ran away from me. The only thing sticking by me were flies. Molly giggled under her whiskers. Again, this was very strange. At the seventh hole, no one could take it anymore. The wind was blowing my stench into the player's direction. The secretary of the Ghost Association insisted that I wash off. Grandfather sprayed me down with the garden hose. I'd never been so humiliated in my life. Well, except for that time I sang on stage in just my underwear. But that's another story. Molly giggled under her whiskers again and again. At the 8th hole, my ball landed in another tree, but this time it hit a bird's nest. The birds were not happy. One perched on my head and began tweeting. Oh, when would this nightmare end? Molly giggled under her whiskers. At the 9th hole, Molly did something shocking. She offered me a sandwich, a delicious hot cheddar one. I guess she felt guilty for laughing at me. I polished off the sandwich in no time, flat. Seconds later, my stomach began to gurgle. Oh no, I made a mad dash for the bathroom. But when I tried to leave the bathroom, I discovered the door was locked. Someone had locked me in. It took 10 minutes to get me out of there. I was so embarrassed. The other players were fuming. You should be ashamed of yourself, grandson. A true golfer never keeps other players waiting. Grandfather scolded me. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. No excuses, grandson. Grandfather barked. Your behavior is unsqueakable. Now get your third gear and hit the ball. Move it, move it, move it. Molly giggled under her whiskers. At the 10th hole, I hit my ball into a shrub, and it took forever to find it. How embarrassing. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How strange, how strange, how strange. At the 11th hole, I hit my ball into the same shrub. What a coincidence. Molly giggled under her whiskers again. At the 12th hole, my ball landed in the same shrub a third time. I couldn't believe my bad luck. Molly giggled under her whiskers again. At the really unlucky 13th hole, my ball landed in a muddy swamp. Going after it, Grandfather insisted. When I climbed up, I looked like a swamp thing. A frog even mistook me for a lily pad. My snout was red with embarrassment, but I had no excuses. I was so covered in mud that no one could see it. Molly giggled under her whiskers again. At the 14th hole, I calculated our score. Despite everything, we were playing well, but when I told Grandfather, he started to pour over our mouth. You jinxed us, he hissed. I didn't want that to happen, so I said, actually, we're playing terribly. Grandfather looked ready to explode. Don't say that either, he shrieked. I couldn't take any more, so what can I say, I asked. Nothing, Grandfather thundered. Be as quiet as a mouse. Molly giggled under her whiskers. How strange. At the 15th hole, when I stuck my paw in the hole to get my ball, a snake popped out. Ah! I yelled. Luckily, the snake was rubbed. I looked around to see who might be playing a prank. Molly giggled under her whiskers. At the 16th hole, my ball was about to turn to reach the hole, but then it made a quick turn. It was as if my ball had a mind of its own. Molly giggled under her whiskers. At the 17th hole, a bush started calling to me. I tried to ignore it, but it was very persistent. Then I saw OK waving from the bush behind. Thank goodness I wasn't going cuckoo. OK had some big news. Molly Rattlemouse is cheating. She's using a remote control ball. Watch her carefully, he whispered. When it was Molly's turn, her ball landed far away from the hole. So much for the Lady Legend golf, I thought. Then I noticed her fumbling with something in her pocket. Was she about to pull another poison cheese sandwich? I backed away. No way I was going to fall for that trick again. Then I heard a loud buzzing sound. Buzz. Then the ball began rolling towards the hole. It turned right, then left, then zigzagged, and went straight to the hole. OK was right. Molly Rattlemouse was cheating. I wasn't shocked about Molly. After all, she was the grandmother of Sally Ratmouse. Who was my number one enemy? Sally hated to lose. Once I was named Publisher of the Year and given an award on stage. Sally was so jealous, she poured glue on my seat. When I stood up, my pants split wide open. I was still thinking about glue when I heard OK shriek in triumph. OK had wrestled Molly's ball away from her and was holding it up to the light. The ball seemed perfectly normal, but then I noticed something strange. It was vibrating. Plus, it was making a very funny buzzing noise. Next, OK picked up my ball. This is as expected, he announced. At first, I didn't know what he was squeaking about. What did he suspect? That my ball was perfectly fine and I had a lousy golfer? Then I heard it. Cheese niblets. My ball was buzzing too. But how? OK turned to Grandma Ratmouse and... Madam, I need you to empty your pockets, he said sternly. Molly threw a fit. Get lost, honey, she shrieked. I'm trying to play golf here. But Sally was curious. She insisted her grandmother to do as she was told. Reluctantly, Grandmother Ratmousin pulled 2 gadgets from her pockets. One had a red button with the initials GS on it. The second had initials MR. We all knew exactly what those stood for. Geronimo Stilton and Molly Ratmousin. Looks like someone has been controlling your board, Geronimo, OK said. I have to admit, I was sort of happy. No, I wasn't happy that Molly had been cheating. I was just happier that I wasn't such a terrible golfer. I mean, who hits the ball into a swamp, up to trees, into a cactus patch, into a sand bunker, and into a wasp's nest all in one game? When everyone heard that Molly had been using remote controls, they were disgusted. You should be ashamed of yourself, Grandfather scolded. Even Sally looked completely floored. But, Grandmother, how could you do such a terrible thing? She squeaked. I know I've done some rotten things in my day, but I'll never cheat while I'm playing golf. The golf course is a special place. We always play by the rules here. But Molly seemed unmoved. Oh, shut up! You're a trap! You nincompoop! I don't give a rat's whiskers about golf. I came here to steal the Super Mouse Cup, she said. Sally's jaw hit the ground. But Grandmother, she sputtered. Molly's eyes just rolled. Then she did something outstanding. She pulled off her rubber mask and stood up straight. She removed her fake teeth and wig, and finally she threw her old lady clothes into the air. I gasped. That wasn't Sally's grandmother. It was a shadow. Do you know who the shadow is? She's the most famous thief in New Mouse City. Before we could do anything, the shadow took off a cluster of pine trees near the 7th hole. Cheese Niblets, she was fast. OK, and I tried to catch up to her. But before we could reach her, she jumped into a mini helicopter hidden between the trees. Try to catch me, you fools! She yelled at the helicopter lifting into the air. For some reason, I had a feeling the fool part was directed at me. How insulting! At the moment, another thought hit. If the shadow had been pretending to be Molly Ratmouse, then where was Sally Ratmouse, the real one? Okay, seemed to have ready on my mind. We need to find Sally's grandmother. She could be in danger, he said. Then he added in a lower voice, and remember, I need to talk to you later about something very, very secret. I wonder why my friend wanted to talk to me about something secret. We took off in separate directions. Grandmother Ratmouse, I called as I went. Suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. I nearly jumped out of my fur when OK popped his head out from behind a tree. One last thing, when you get back to the game, don't forget they're watching you, he said mysteriously. Who were they, and who did they want, I wondered. I hurried toward the clubhouse. When I got there, I learned in all the hidden corners, under the stairway, in the basement, in the bathroom, and in the changing rooms. The whole time, I was yelling, Grandmother Ratmouse! Grandmother! When I passed in front of the door to one of the bathroom closets, I heard a strange muffled noise. Sure enough, when I pushed open the door, there she was, Molly Ratmousin. She was tied up and gagged and looked very angry. When I removed the gag, Grandmother Ratmousin began screaming at me. Why didn't you save me earlier? You left me stuck in the broom closet for hours. You don't treat an old lady like that. I had a very important match to win today. I was supposed to defeat William Shortpaws. Do you even know who I am? I am Molly Ratmousin, Lady Legend of Golf, she squeaked. I put my paw on her shoulder to calm her down. Everything's going to be okay now, Mrs. Ratmousin, I said in my kindest voice. I am Geronimo Stilton, and... But she didn't let me finish. Young mouse, did you say Geronimo Stilton? She cried. I expected her to thank me for having saved her, so I repeated my name. Yes, I'm Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, I said. The famous Stilton, the publisher of the Roanoke Gazette. She squeaked. William Shortpaw's grandson? I nodded. Then she hit me over his head with her purse. Well then, take this and this and this, she yelled. She smacked me over and over again. I tried to explain to Molly that it wasn't my fault that she had been locked up in the closet. Meanwhile, I headed toward the 18th hole. Even after everything that had happened, Grandmother and Grandfather and I were still in the middle of the tournament. Luckily, when I reached the 18th hole, the judges were able to calm the old mouse down. They explained everything to her, including the shadow's trick. Finally, Molly was squeakless. Thank goodness. Her high-pitched voice squeaked was making my fur curl. What took you so long, grandson? Grandfather complained. Everyone's been waiting for you. I had to tell some jokes just to keep the crowd entertained. I groaned. Have you ever heard one of grandfather's jokes? Let's just say they're the opposite of funny. I looked around at the crowd. Holy cheese. I couldn't believe how many of my friends and family were there. I saw my sister Thea, Hercule Poirot, the famous detective, my cousin Trap, my nephew Benjamin, and the TV reporter, Petunia Pretty Paws. I even spotted my cousin Dino Stilton, the great dino expert, who was just back from a long scientific expedition. Then I looked at the green and turned pale. My ball wasn't anywhere near the hole. Right at the moment, a voice called out, "You can't do it, Stilton." I blushed. It was Petunia Pretty Paws. I've had a crush on her for the longest of times, but whenever I'm around her, I turn into a bumbling fool. I tried to trip over my own tail when I felt grandfather's strong paw on my shoulders. "Listen, grandson, you've got to make this shot," he said. If you do it, we'll win the tournament. If you don't, we'll lose." My heart pounded. My ball was so far away from the hole, I whined. Grandfather stamped his paws. "No excuses," he squeaked. "I want to win." With trembling paws, I gripped the golf club. I took a peek at the crowd. There, where my family and friends were cheering me on, I couldn't let them down. I took my best swing. The ball zipped through the air as it approached the hole. I felt like my heart would burst right out of my fur. Did I do it? I couldn't. Look. Suddenly, everyone was screaming. "Way to go, grandson!" Grandfather shrieked. "We won!" Petunia Pretty Paws ran up to me. "I'm so proud of you, G," she cried. She kissed me on the cheek. I would have thanked her, but I couldn't. I had already fainted. After the game, there was a special celebration at the clubhouse. The president of the Rodent Golf Association presented us with the Super Mouse Cup. I stared at the giant diamond glittering in the afternoon sun. It really was spectacular. I was glad I had been able to help grandfather win it. As I was admiring the cup, old K poked his head around from behind a column. He whispered loudly, "Remember our meeting? Come on!" Now I asked. Now Cornelius said seriously. We stepped out into the hallway. Why did we have to leave the party? I asked Cornelius, "Do you have to be so mysterious?" My friend chuckled. "Better get used to it, Geronimo. I came to tell you that you passed the test," he announced. I scratched my head. I hadn't signed up for a test. "I don't know what you're talking about," I asked, but Cornelius kept babbling away. "They have observed you, and you have declared you are fit," he said. "Congratulations, Geronimo," and he gave me a bone-crushing hug. "What are you talking about?" I squeaked. "Wake up and smell the cheese," Cornelius said. "The head of the Mouse Service Organization have been watching you. They want you to become a secret agent. Isn't that fabby, Mouse? So now I'm a secret agent. Just call me OOG. So far, I haven't had any cases like a giant diamond robbery, but when I do, I'll be sure to fill you in. Mouse's honor." The end.